I'm Bobby Levine alongside John Kostis as always. We want to give a big shout out to Ohio University being Northern Illinois tonight, 79-62, moving themselves into the semifinals.
That's right, Bobby. It might be a rainy day here in Athens, but the only thing raining at the Quicken Loans Arena were Bobcat threes in a victory. We'll talk about that and much more tonight on Ohio Sports Zone. Hello, welcome back to Ohio Sports Zone. I'm John Kostis alongside Bobby Levine. Before we talk a little bit about the basketball team, let's start talking about the other sports that have been happening for Ohio over spring break in this past weekend. The Ohio baseball team has started off 5-7 this year. It's a little bit different than last season, where they were one of just 6 teams to start off 7-0. And one big problem that Ohio has really suffered from is pitching. Both starters and relievers have really struggled, which is a shame because the Ohio Bobcats bats are on fire right now. There are 12 different players who have an over 300 average, and that's compared to just 3 who have under a 300 average for this Bobcats baseball team. 2 of those 3 have under 10 at-bats too. They're just swinging the bat like there's no tomorrow right now.
Yeah, the starting pitching definitely needs help. Logan Jasek is 2-0 with a 2.92 ERA and is getting no help from the rest of the starting crew. Now, on the end of the bullpen, we have Eddie Fitzpatrick, the transfer from Brown, redshirt senior, is playing great. He has 1 save with an ERA of 1.42 and looking outstanding this year. I talked to him earlier this week. He said his arm is feeling great. And right now, the 5-7 record isn't showing right now, but if the pitching comes around with the batting, you can watch out for the Bobcats.
And I think what the serious problem for this Ohio team is their whip. That's walks and hits per inning pitched. If you look at Ohio in total innings pitched, they have 103 2/3. They have 83 walks in that time. That's absolutely terrible. And their whip is 1.63. A good whip is somewhere between 1.0 and 1.2. They're far above the collegiate average.
Yeah, Ohio University is coming off a victory against Marshall 4-1 this past Wednesday. They go on the road to the Indiana University, Purdue University of Fort Wayne. 4 games this weekend. Hopefully they stay hot and keep it going.
They're 5-7. They've played all their games on the road, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the Bobcats will be at Bob Wren Stadium. If it stays dry, those games will get underway, and they'll be able to get some home cooking going. Hopefully that can push them to get over 500 because this is a very talented team. But while we're talking about a lot of talent, let's talk a little bit about the Ohio Bobcats softball team. This team is kind of the opposite of the baseball team, where their pitching is absolutely phenomenal. And there are 2 women in particular who have been playing very well. It's Danielle Stein and then Savannah Jo Dorsey. There have actually only been 3 arms to throw in a game at all for this Bobcats team, but all of them have been doing an amazing job, and 2 of the 3, that's Savannah Jo Dorsey and then Danielle Stein, are on a watch list for MAC Pitcher of the Year.
Yeah, with softball, it's a lot different because they can pitch in multiple games in multiple weeks, where if you're a men's pitcher, you have to pitch and get a 5-day rest at minimum. So good job by those girls. The pitching has held opponents to a 2.03 batting average, which is outstanding. They're coming off wins this past Saturday against Texas Tech, where they beat 6-2, and UTSA 8-5 in the doubleheader. Michaela Cooper is batting .500 so far in this season, and the record is 8-6. So in 14 games, batting .500 is unbelievable. She's got 3 doubles, a triple, 2 home runs, and 9 RBIs with a total of 30 bases. She's played outstanding for the Bobcats and the softball diamond.
This last weekend, Morgan Gino got her first action on the mound. She pitched 3 innings, didn't walk any batters, and only allowed 1 hit. Let's compare it a little bit to the men's baseball team, who has a 1.63 whip. She has a .33 whip. I know a lot of times you hear ERA, but a 0.00 ERA doesn't give Morgan Gino justice. It's hard to crack this rotation for Ohio, but she might be added in after her play this past weekend.
Yeah, the last 2 years, the men's baseball team has won a MAC championship, and 2 years ago, the women's team won one too. So hopefully they keep hot at the right time right now. Or this weekend, Ohio University softball team goes on the road and plays Drake and Indiana University at the Indiana Classic this weekend. So hopefully they get the bats rolling also and keep winning.
And finally, it's tournament time for wrestling. Wrestling will send 3 freshmen and then 3 seniors to the national tournament, and they have people from Cody Walters, who is ranked 7th, to 2 people who are just at-large bids in the tournament.
Yeah, Cameron Kelly's ranked 13th, and redshirt senior Phil Wellington got the number 11 overall seed. The Bobcats finished the year at 13-3 and number 20 in the nation. So good luck to them as they finish 3rd in the MAC championship and the national championship coming up this weekend. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk men's basketball.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Clean kitchen surfaces, utensils, and hands with soapy water. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Give an apology to the men's basketball team for a couple episodes ago. Guys, roll this clip.
What is the percentage that the men's basketball team gets within the top 4 of the MAC East?
Well, I'm going to have to be a little down on this one. I was going to say 0% chance, but there's always a chance here. I'm going to go with 1% chance that the men's team makes a top 4. 1% chance that the men's team makes a top 4. 1% chance that the men's team makes a top 4. 1% chance. 1% chance that the men's team makes a top 4.
Well, Bobby, you did give them a 1% chance, and hey, they took full advantage of that 1% chance, and look where the Bobcats are right now in the semifinals of the MAC tournament after finishing 2nd in the regular season behind Akron, and it seems already that Ohio fans are looking at the other side of the bracket because the 2 teams that are most feared for this Ohio Bobcats team are Akron and Bowling Green, the only 2 teams to sweep Ohio, whereas Buffalo and Miami are on the same side. The winner of that game, which is currently ongoing, will be the team Ohio plays tomorrow. Miami is really hot right now, but they haven't been able to do a lot of damage against Ohio.
Yeah, there's a reason why they played in the opening day of the MAC tournament. The Bobcats just won tonight's game 79-62 against NIU. They played twice earlier this year where they split. Both times the score was 80-69. Pretty remarkable stat there. Now, the winner, as you said, plays Miami or Buffalo. A huge game for the Bobcats as they played Miami at the end of the year, had a huge lead, and then ended up blowing the lead but winning by 2 points.
Exactly. Like I said, Miami has been on a tear as of late. Not only did they have a big upset in the first round of the MAC tournament, but at the end of the regular season, they had won 4 of their final 5 games. Guess who the one loss was to? Ohio, and Ohio blew a double-digit lead to make it a very similar game as their first road victory, and that was against Toledo when Ohio had a 19-point lead at halftime, and then they only won by 1 point against Toledo. So this Ohio team could have a problem with inconsistencies and a surging Miami team if they were to beat Buffalo.
Now, John, if you look at the stats from the night, Ohio shot 50% from the field. Are they going to have to play that kind of game if they play Akron in the championship to pretty much play perfect to get themselves in an NCAA berth?
Well, it depends which Akron team shows up. If you look at Akron's performance earlier today against Eastern Michigan, they did get a 2-point win, and man, did they get lucky, because Eastern Michigan had a 10-point lead with just 4 minutes left in the game. They really just struggled down the stretch, and for lack of a better term, they pooped the PJs there.
Yeah, absolutely. I was watching the game. I thought Eastern Michigan had the game won. Akron had a couple calls go their way, and they got the roll. Now, we want to give a shout-out to Antonio Campbell getting MAC Player of the Year. He averaged 17.5 points per game and averaged 10 rebounds on the dot. Tonight, he got 21 points and 8 rebounds, and Jerron Simmons, the point guard, outstanding player, had 16 points and 11 assists. They're going to be a huge factor when it comes to the next couple games if Ohio keeps winning and possibly NIT or NCAA berth.
Yeah, we could take a break from talking about the upcoming tournament for a second just to talk about Antonio Campbell's season. 17.5 points per game, exactly 10 rebounds per game. He's the first Ohio player to win MAC Player of the Year since 2013 when DJ Cooper won it, and because he's a junior and won the prestigious award, he is going to be the first player since Gary Trent. Ooh. When Gary Trent won MAC Player of the Year 3 times to have an opportunity to win multiple MAC Players of the Year in a Bobcat uniform.
Now, with Ohio being the number 2 seed in the MAC tournament, could they possibly get an NIT berth? And if they do win the MAC tournament, knock on wood, what seed would they possibly get, and do you think they could even make a run?
They're going to be a lower seed for sure in the NCAA tournament if they were to beat first Buffalo or Miami, and then secondly, Bowling Green or Akron. I think that's definitely who's going to come out of the other side of the tournament. But I think it would be anywhere between the 10 seed and the 13 seed. So 10 would be best case scenario. If they get 13 again, that is the seed that they got when they upset Michigan. What was that, 4 years ago in the tournament now, or maybe even 5 years ago in the tournament now. But this Ohio team is one of those teams that has a huge amount of talent, and they've progressed a lot. I think they could be an upset bubble team, and I think that they've locked up an NIT bid at this stage of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. When I made that comment, as the clip showed earlier on in this segment, I thought the team was playing about 500 ball, and they got hot at the end of the year, which helped them tremendously. The rest of the top of the MAC faltered. Obviously, the reason why we got the 2 seed by themselves, if we would have beat Akron at the end of the year, we could have shared the title with them, and who knows about the tiebreaker at that point. I'm full force on the bandwagon for Ohio University basketball, and hopefully they can pull out a couple wins in a row here and make a run in the tournament.
What makes the MAC so exciting is the amount of parity in the league. Kent State lost in the opening round, Ball State lost in the opening round, and Eastern Michigan had a big upset in the opening round of the tournament. All 3 are results that no expert would have picked. That's what makes it so fun. I'm sure there will be more upsets in the final 2 or 3 games in MAC play. We're going to hit a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to stay in the queue, but we're going to talk about the women's basketball squads.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I didn't see you there. Ever wonder what really happens in the world? Ever wonder what the media is keeping from you? Well, look no further than AVW's News Time for all your answers. Ohio University's most reliable source of unreliable news. All news, all the time, none of the facts. All made possible by AVW Productions. You could trust us. We're professionals.
Hello and welcome back to Ohio Sports Zone. I'm John Kosas alongside Bobby Levine. The women's basketball team for Ohio University had a very different start to the season than the men's basketball team. They were picked to win the MAC again this year to become back-to-back MAC champions, but there's one team that they just could not seem to get past, and Yesterday, they end up losing 72-60 to Buffalo for the second time this season, and it's the end of an illustrious career for Kiana Black and a season for this Bobcats team.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought for sure the Bobcats were going to make a run in the MAC tournament as they did last year, beating Eastern Michigan and getting their first tournament bid since 1994. Unfortunately, the Bobcats faltered again. They lost 6 games all year, and 3 of them were to the Buffalo Bulls. Unbelievable stat right there. Bob Bolden just couldn't figure out to break their zone. The 2-3 zone Buffalo had was unbelievable. Jonna Smith, number 4, first-team All-MAC player on Buffalo, shot lights out every time they played the Bobcats. She scored 16 in the first game. The second game, she scored 21. In this past game, just yesterday, she scored 19 points. She averaged 18.67 points per game against the Bobcats this year, and it just showed, obviously, on the scoreboard. The Bobcats just couldn't understand that whole defense.
Here are 2 stat lines you probably thought you would never hear. Kiana Black shot 3 for 14 from the field. All 3 of those were 3-pointers that she made. She was 3 for 11 from behind the arc. And then Lexi Baldwin was only 3 for 10 from the field, having 2 of your better scorers shooting a combined 6 for 24 is not a good formula for victory. And just as a comparison, if you look at the top 2 players, Marek and Baker for Northern Illinois, who lost by 20 to the Ohio men's team today, they shot 4 for 16. Your starters or your top 2 players for the women's team shot even worse, and they couldn't figure it out, but they still kept the score close.
Yeah, the Bobcats finished the year 24-6, 16-2 in the MAC. There were some accolades, though, to finish up the year. Kiana Black was named first-team All-MAC. She finished number 2 in the voting for Player of the Year. Kiera Lampkins was named 2016 MAC Defensive Player of the Year. Lexi Baldwin was named Honorable Mention All-MAC, and Jasmine Weatherspoon was named All-MAC Defense. So congrats to those girls. There's going to be 3 things to look forward to coming up later this week in the offseason for the Bobcats. Number 1, are they going to make an NIT bid? If so, who are they going to play, and are they going to host some games here at the Convo? That'd be very cool to see if the Bobcats can hold some games and see how the students come out and see such a great team. They finished 27-5 last year. They've had a winning record the last 2 years, and Bob Bolden's the man. Number 2 leads right into it. Bob Bolden. Is he going to stay? The guy is a very young coach, and everywhere he's gone, he's won. I know there's going to be calls coming all over from Power 5 conferences to see if he can join them and make their team possibly better. And number 3, they're losing 3 seniors. Kiana Black, as you mentioned, was probably the best player the Bobcats have. They're also losing Lexi Baldwin, a great player in the post and a great player down low on defense. And then number 3, Mariah Harris, coming out of Michigan State transfer, coming off the bench as point guard, led the team very well this year. 3 seniors are going to be lost huge for the Bobcats.
Yeah, it is going to be big to see what happens to the team next year. If Bob Bolden stays, I don't think there's going to be a big issue for this women's team. But on the other end, if Bob Bolden goes and you lose your top 3 players, I think there's going to be a lot of turmoil in Athens next season.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely want to see Bob Bolden stay here. He's been the glue of this team. Obviously, he's going to definitely get with the coaches like Coach Jackson, look at the film against Buffalo and see the mistakes they had, because you cannot lose to a team that's just par 500 in the MAC when you have dominated everyone else the entire year, and you can't seem to understand that formula, unfortunately. But if you get him back, you're going to have a whole new recruiting class with 3 more people coming in. It's going to be exciting to see the Bobcats in the next couple of years and see if they can stay at the top of the MAC.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really big to look at. The other thing that was kind of big, if they want to get in the NIT tournament, they're going to have to look at their mistakes against Buffalo and how to correct them. One big thing was being outscored in the paint. Buffalo outscored Ohio in the paint 38-24. 38 of 72 points were scored within 10 feet of the basket. That's a big problem that they're going to want to correct. And just to show a little bit how the game went, the 4th quarter, Ohio was outscored 12-4 in the paint alone. Buffalo only scored 20 points in the 4th quarter. And if you look at it, Buffalo scores 14 points in the first, 14 again in the second, 24 in the third, and then 20 in the 4th. They outscored Ohio 24-18 and 20-13 in the second half, those 2 quarters. That's where Ohio really fell apart.
Yeah, absolutely. The second half, Buffalo shot 59.3% from the field. That's absolutely lights out. And then, obviously, the Bobcats took all their starters out with about 2 minutes to go as they just couldn't hang with Buffalo and this unbelievable defense. And then Jonna Smith just shooting lights out. So hopefully we'll see if we can come back. On Monday will be the selection committee, see if they can actually get an at-large bid from the MAC. Probably not, and then hopefully we'll see them in the NIT and see if they can make a run.
It will be very exciting to see what happens with this Ohio women's team. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we actually have an exclusive interview. Don't go anywhere.
Looking for these? You drive Buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Toucan Sam.
What's it take to get some hunky construction equipment up in here, huh?
I hope you're joking.
I think we need to follow the advice of Jesus and get down, girl. Go ahead, get down.
Please state your name and the role you're auditioning for.
Hi, my name is Christopher Walken.
What if it is Loch Ness Monster?
I mean, I got some shopping to do at Whole Foods, so I'll join them.
But to my captain.
I'm right then. I knew I was right.
Welcome back to Ohio Sports. I'm John Kosis alongside Bobby Levine. Our reporter Alex Utano talked with Treg Setti, the lone senior on the Ohio Bobcats basketball team, about the MAC tournament and this season. Check it out.
I'm Alex Utano for Ohio Sports Zone here at the Convocation Center, where Stand Up and Cheer has been preached to all the fans here for the Ohio Bobcats. Now with tournament time just days away, I was able to talk to the only senior on the basketball team, Treg Setti. Tell us, what was the difference between this year's squad and last year's?
I think a lot deeper. There's a lot. We had a year to get acclimated to coach's system and learn what he expects from his players, and a bunch of new guys that have come in that were all handpicked by Coach Phillips to be a part of his system. And there's just a lot of positivity around this program right now, and I think it's definitely translated into wins on the court. And so it's a fun time to be here for sure.
And you started your Bobcat career with Jim Christian. Now you have Coach Saul Phillips. What are the differences between the two coaches in terms of coaching style, if any?
Coach Christian is really kind of fire and brimstone, and was really aggressive and very intense. And he was more of a hands-on kind of wanted his players to play a certain way. And Coach Phillips is more relaxed and calm, and doesn't push his players to be anything more than what they are, less than what they are. He kind of lets his players get comfortable with who they are and who they are as a player, and he lets you work to become as good as you can be. And Coach Phillips doesn't put a ceiling on his players. You know, he kind of lets the guys work as hard as they can and become as good as they can be, and he really encourages you. And he's a real pleasure to play for.
Now, as tournament time approaches here for the MAC, does your practices change at all?
Little less physicality in practice. You don't want to wear guys down as you head into MAC play or MAC tournament play. You want to make sure the guys' legs are fresh, but all the while you want to make sure that you're still working on your shooting and your ball handling and trying to kind of hone in on some skill work. And so I think it's important to make sure that you continue to push yourself, but not too much to where you're too tired when you actually step out on the court to play.
Now, this year's team doesn't have 4 of the top 5 scorers from last year's squad. However, there have been a lot of players who have stepped it up. Tell us, in your eyes, who has been the biggest difference maker? Who has stepped up the most to fill in the shoes of, say, Maurice Endor?
I mean, you got to look at Tone and of course, Duran and Kenny and myself and Gavin and Jordy, and really just 1 through 15, we got a bunch of guys that fill different roles, from the guys that are on the bench that, cheer louder than anybody in the MAC to the guys that start and, score more than anybody. I think it's important to have 15 guys that all know their role and that fit in well with one another, and that's something that we got, and it's not something that I've had in a lot of in my career, and so I'm really thankful to be a part of a group like this.
And last but not least, there have been a lot of players, obviously, that have been making a difference. But in the locker room, who would you say is a real vocal presence in the locker room? Who's a real leader?
I'd say I'd like to say myself, and you got Tony and Kenny and Jerron. Us four have really stepped up and kind of been the leaders in the locker room, and we have the most experience among the four of us, and so we've definitely taken that role of just kind of being the leaders, and everyone kind of looks up to us, and we kind of set the tone, even in the games as well. And so, but we got a team full of leaders. I think that's one thing that's really special about this group is we got a team full of guys that really wants to make an impression and really wants to work hard and make sure that they're picking up their weight. And so I think when you have a whole team full of guys that work hard and that lead, then you got something special, and that's what we have.
The Bobcats' first tournament game is this upcoming Thursday, and they will face the winner of Northern Illinois and Western Michigan. For Ohio Sports Zone, I'm Alex Utano.
John Kostis and myself are now joined by Alex Utano, who had the privilege to interview Treg Setti. Now, guys, right now the score in the Buffalo-Miami game is 15-6 with 12:30 left in the first half. If you could pick a team to play out of those two, who would it be and why?
That is a very tough question, but right now I gotta say Buffalo because of the way we played, or Ohio has played in both games. Ohio's a decent start for each of those games. In the game at the Convocation Center when they hosted Buffalo, they looked really good. They were aggressive in the paint. And yeah, Miami's lower seed, and yes, Miami was also swept by the Bobcats. I just feel like the way that the Bobcats have been playing as of late, Buffalo is the team that they want to play.
I'm going to actually disagree with you here, Alex. I really want to play Miami for two reasons. Reason number one, this Miami team is a rival to Ohio, and you really haven't been able to drum off of this rivalry as a fan base for a long time in either football or basketball, because Miami's been so bad in recent years, just to put it bluntly. The second reason is because, man, wouldn't it be fun to beat the hottest team in the tournament right now? And I do honestly believe that that's the Miami Redhawks.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with John. I don't think I can handle another Buffalo beat Ohio team of our own here. But if we do somehow make it to the championship and we play Akron or BG, can we win?
Oh, definitely. I mean, if you're hitting near 50% from beyond the arc, you're going to beat anyone in this tournament. And Ohio shot 48.3% from behind the line. You have Kenny Kaminsky going 5 for 8. You have Jordan Dardis going 3 for 6. If you continue to stay red hot like that, there is no way that you're going to lose to either Akron or Bowling Green, because those are two schools that they've really had a hard time beating, especially this year, 0-4 combined.
Well, Bobby, I always think there's at least a 1% chance that a team is going to win the championship game, so I'm going to give Ohio a real big 1% chance to win against either Akron or Bowling Green.
I'm going to have to agree with you there. I'm going to give it more than a 50% chance. That's all the time we have here at Ohio Sports Zone. Join us next week, same time, same place. Have a great week.